Hello, MFL members. Year 34, round 3, phase 1 is complete. You will see that we have lost a little momentum here as far as quantity of bids. A lot of people passing on this round, and that's okay. Couple of notes, I guess, that you should be aware of. First of all, if you do not see your name under this current roster here, if your team name is not there, you can now officially start trying to figure out who on your roster you want to keep, who has not been bid on, because they are available for keep. They are not going to be bid on. There's no more chance of that. So these few teams here that have some players that they have to decide on can't quite narrow down those keeper lists quite yet. But those of you who know you've got a keeper on your roster that you want to protect as a keeper, you can go ahead and edit your keeper list on Sleeper and put them on there. So just know that. The other part of this might be if you are one of these bidders over here, you can also sort of figure out your keepers if you've got no one to match or not match on. But budget wise, it may depend on the outcome of these bids as to whether or not who you can afford to keep, if that makes sense. So anyway, I'll try to remember to post this document on, or at least a copy of this document on the chat so that people know exactly what players are available and stuff to be kept. And then, yeah, we've got a good couple of weeks here before we have to really get keepers designated, I think. Look on the Sleeper countdown. It'll tell you exactly. In fact, I'll pull that up here in just a bit if we need to. Let's talk about some bids. First of all, Colston Loveland, tight end on the Posse's roster, has been bid at 46, and that is by Hoopton, who is the highest bidder. But there is another bidder out there. So if that 46 is matched, then two people will be given the opportunity to bid again. If it is not matched, then Hoopton will sign Colston Loveland. Tyler Shuck, currently on the Quake NATO's roster, who, by the way, out of so few bids, the Quake NATO's have got some decisions to make. 25. Also, Hoopton is the highest bidder, but again, it looks like there is another bidder out there. So just be aware of that. Jacoby Myers on the Quake NATO's roster has been bid at 4 by Big D. Tyrone Tracy on the Ass Kickers roster has been bid at 5 by the Tube Stakes. And then another double bid, Devon Achan on the Big D roster has been bid at 90. Quake NATO's currently in the lead on that, but there is another bidder in the shadows, if you will. So if that 90 is matched, there will be two owners coming after him. And then last but not least, a couple of bids by the Army here. Mike Evans on the Tube States roster for 85, and Jamison Williams on the Quake NATO's roster for 50, and that is by the Army. So that is all the players for round 3. So I think I'm feeling pretty good about keeping the bidding at 3 rounds and 8 bids total. That seems to be a pretty good number to make sure we clean up any loose ends at the end or whatever. I can assure you there are some bargains out there as keepers, and you should be looking at your roster and deciding on those guys. Just keep in mind, if they're getting paid less than 10 points, their raise is still 1 point. And I don't get to put that in until after the keeper deadline. So just know, if you're doing your own budgeting, you're going to have to add a point. That is the minimum raise that a player gets. So if you're paying them 1 point, then if you keep them, you're paying them 2 points. That's the way that works. If you cannot fit a player's salary in with the 10% raise, then you cannot keep them. They're going to have to go back into the live auction, and that you can bid on them and probably sign them a little cheaper, because obviously no one went and bid on them in the silent bidding, so maybe the demand is not necessarily there. But just know that that is where we're at. I said I might do this, and I think I will. Let's jump over to sleepers. So we have 12 days, 12 days and 12 hours on our keeper lists. And so I can just tell you now, there's a few players of mine that were not bid on that I can definitely keep. In fact, I think I even wrote them down. So what I would do if I were you is, if you know there's a player you want to keep that has not been bid on. Well, first of all, if you franchised a player, if you matched a bid and signed a player, or if you were the highest bidder on a player and you signed them, you should already by now have gone in and done this. But now, for example, I can go in and I can look at, I'm just going to look at the first random name that kind of comes up here. Here's a good one, DJ Moore. He was not bid on. I am going to keep him. Looks like I have to keep him at about 73. So he must be making like 65 or so now, I think. But yeah, I am going to keep DJ Moore at 73. So I'm going to keep Gainwell. There's another one. Looks like I'm going to get Gainwell at 2. I'm paying him 1. Now I'm going to keep him at 2. So that's definitely going to happen. And then once you've picked all the ones you want, and you can keep going in and out of this if you want, you hit set keepers, and then you'll see their picture show up down here underneath the countdown. You get 15 if you want them. I can tell you that getting to 15 names is hard. It depends on how many you've signed. If you've signed a bunch, like if you signed 3, 4, 5 players, then you can probably get to 15. If you didn't sign very many, then by the time you get to that 15th keeper, you're probably wondering, do I really want the Saints defense or something like that? So, and hey, let's be honest. You throw the Saints defense back, you probably can sign them for 1. If you keep them, you got to pay them 2. So I don't know that anyone's really necessarily going to keep 15. I do have 15 designated right now, but I've got question marks on probably at least 3 of them. So anyway, so that's how you do the keepers. And yes, you should do that within the next 12 days. Looks like it went to 6 hours once 12 days and 6 hours. So we refreshed the screen, right? But if you don't do that, it is going to be complicated for your commissioner. So make sure you have your keepers designated. Once that deadline passes, the 12 days, I will have this little gap in time, this little 4-day, 2-hour gap in time here. That's when I go in, I enter the salaries, I put them on your draft board, and basically update the auction, so that when we do have our auction on Saturday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Tulsa time, we're ready to go. So I'll also add in, like I said, some of your rookie money. So if you had carryover from last year, we'll add that in too. And that is, again, the live auction when we'll get to bid on some rookies. Rookies have been off the board until now, so that's pretty much where we're at. Keep in mind, you have to have at least $1 to fill each roster spot. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm gonna spend all the way up to 0, your carryover and all that needs to be enough to cover the rest of your roster spots. So that's one of the reasons we add that money in, is in case there's a little tricky math situation there at the end. But for right now, I mean, we've got this kind of down to a science, I think, and it pretty much always pans out. I did put in the pinned post, if you look at this little thumbtack over here, I put in the pinned post the carryover money right here from last year. And then you will actually get added to that a little bit for every bid that you made in the silent bidding. So everybody gets something, which is kind of, I think, the way it should work out. So if you're going in with a ton of money, just know that, man, that's your time to pick your targets and spend the money on them. Because again, even though you get to carry it over, it doesn't really help you that much. Money is best used when it is spent in this game. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers what we were doing here. Again, just these few bids here that we need to get through on round 3. Pretty good chance, I think, we get done with this before the weekend, and then you've got over a week to get your keepers done. And I'll be talking to everybody probably individually about their math and all that too. So Yeah, y'all stay safe out there, and I'll check back in with you when I have more information.